Hello, in this video I'm going to talk about confirmation bias and confirmation crossover. For the main Jackrabbit indicator there is a separation, but for the modulus framework they are one and the same. So here we are, XLM, LTC, any coin you want, as long as it's not BTC or ETH, the two primary coins used for base currencies. So I'm going to choose MACD just because it has the highest number of signals and it's the easiest to demonstrate this. Okay, I'm going to use XMR as the basis. Now before I start going through how to set this up, when you are using confirmation bias, it's because you want to use one or more coins to compare against the coin you actually want to buy. From the standpoint of the coin you actually want to buy, you are looking for a buy signal or a sell signal appropriate to the individual coin you are trying to purchase. For example, if you want to use BTC, then you will want to use the confirmation of when both of them are at the lowest point. The reason behind this being is since BTC is a base currency, if you can catch BTC at a low point and XRP at a low point for purchasing, then when you sell them and you go the opposite direction, catching both of them at a high point, it is effectively a double realized profit. I'll demonstrate this with USDT as it is simple mathematics. The best place to buy USDT, and let's see if I can actually bring a chart up here. Okay, very simple. We'll use this one because the range is the same. You want a price action of 0.997 for your purchase rate. You want a price action of 1.001 for your selling rate. The result of that is 0.3% profit. Now, if you sell XRP at a 1% profit, if you catch USDT in this same line, you will have a realized profit of 1.3%. This is the driving factor to why most people buy and sell using BTC as a base currency, because it magnifies this effect, even though it is much higher risk. You can still take advantage of this magnification effect even though you are actually only using USDT as your base currency. So it's something to be aware of, because you want to be able to keep track of those little nuances. And that is what confirmation bias does, is it actually lets you set up a framework to buy the coin of choice against another coin's activity. So let's start with MACD. Now MACD can be a very difficult algorithm to set up. This mindset is, at the minimum, a headache in some ways. So for now, I'm going to leave the chart off because this shows the buy and sell signals more clearly. But I'm going to take the first system and I'm going to use Binance Order Book, BTC with a USDT based currency. I'm going to turn confirmation bias on. I'm not touching anything else. Now we already see it's updated. Signals between BTC and right now Monero. Now we're going to force this, your confirmation signal, to ETH's order book. Again, not changing anything else. And what you're going to have is BTC and ETH, where they line up. Now, here you have a double lineup. Now, let's do this one more time. I'm actually going to use MACD again. This time, I'm going to do a little bit different approach. I'm going to feed in the previous information. Right now, MACD is evaluating XMR. So what we have, this version of MACD is evaluating BTC and ETH for buy signals. And these are where they line up. Now, on the second version of MACD, we have XMR going against BTC and ETH combined. So all three coins are showing buy and sell signals. No other changes. Now, this is not something you use all the time. This is a very specific trading pattern that has a very specific purpose. That purpose is designed only for coins that you don't want to directly trade against BTC with. In other words, if you want to modify this to actually compare it against XRP with a base currency of BCT, you can. These are simple techniques to using MACD. So, keep in mind when you're setting up your confirmation bias. This is a filtering system that deliberately reduces your signals of the coin you want to purchase by forcing it to align with other coins of your choice. It's not always needed. In fact, it's hardly ever needed unless this is your trading style. And this is the style I prefer. I like using it because I don't always like trading with BTC or ETH. The volume is sometimes simply too erratic for my liking. I like to be able to use this approach to get that slight pop when everything lines up and they all sell at a high point, or when everything lines up and they all sell at a low point. It's a technical strategy that has a surgical precision and place and can actually be taken even further if you want to. So, take your time with this. Think about your combinations. For example, XLM will automatically do it. And as you see, the thing to remember with the altcoins, or any coin that can use BTC or ETH as a base currency, you're going to see patterns. As you can see, as we move through these, you're starting to see some patterns already. Places that line up universally. And that's where this really shows up nicely, because it shows that price action convergence. And that really is what MACD is about. The convergence of a whole series of different, not necessarily related, assets. This takes advantage of the dominance of BTC as the primary, and then ETH's secondary dominance. Some coins, like here, Ethereum. Of course, this is going to show up badly because it's the coin we're trading against. This is exactly why you can't use this coin when you're working with it. But you can pick. Let's go to some of the lesser coins. Some of the really low-grade coins. Yes, I said it, despite a lot of people's unwantedness in defending their coins, we're going to pick a low-grade coin. A coin that is, quite frankly, something I would probably never trade. Let's see. Okay. Most of these coins are actually pretty decent. I would never trade metal. It's just not my taste. But it can still be used. So out of all of this, you see only one signal. Let's go up to the 15-minute and see how often signals occur. 2 buy signals since basically the beginning of the month. Not really a good coin for this kind of situation, unless you're looking for surgical prices. And even then, I don't know. Here's the price for it. I personally would rather have a price down here. But your price points are so minute, I really don't even know if it would matter with this coin. Another coin that's an odd choice. Very few signals though. But at least it gets closer to some relatively low points. Now this one actually does pretty good. Actually gets the low points right on track. But still not necessarily a good quality coin. So here we are. Confirmation bias. It's easy to use as long as you figure out the direction you're going. It's not something you need to use all the time, unless it's specifically the kind of market you want to trade. Most people may never even want to use it. I like it as a type of trading style that fits what I look for. Is it necessarily the easiest style to trade against? No, it's not. It takes a lot of practice and it takes a lot of work to begin to really see how the components fit together. Once you begin to recognize the consistent patterns, it becomes easier. But in the beginning, trying to plug in different things to line up is difficult. And MACD is in of itself a difficult algorithm to work with. Not only because it has so many choices, but because you need to be able to really tune those choices to a certain circumstance. And each coin has to be tuned individually. MACD is not so much a one-size-fits-all situation like many indicators are. So when you're working with confirmation bias, take your time. But before you start working with it, know why you want to use it. Why do you want to compare your current coin to any other coin or asset on the market? What goal do you have that you are trying to achieve in making these comparisons? Because not every single situation is going to line up as the most profitable in the short term. Also, in the short term or shorter time frames, you may not get good quality signals. MACD is usually a longer term strategy. So when you use it as a short term strategy, it requires a little bit more technical knowledge about why you are using it. Now here at the 1 hour mark, this is producing some very nice strategies. Some of the sell points are a little lower than I like, and that can be weeded out with more analysis. But for the most part, this actually does well. For example, right now we have the 1 hour chart. What happens if and we're using EMAs for everything. Let's just make a slight change. Take the smoothing line to an SMA and see how it's going to affect all the purchases. If it even affects it at all. It may not. So those are things that you need to be aware of when you're working with MACD. Make small changes at first. Okay, that took out the whole line. And gave us 2 buy signals and 1 sell signal. So we have an effective approach. This really applies to any indicator. Always take your time and back search the charts. See how things interact. Things like this. Look at how the sells take place. Look at how the buys take place. How does it affect the combinations? Look at different time frames. Does it help you or does it hinder you? For example, here is a buy marker. Here is a sell marker. So having this particular combination on Matic may not be ideal. So be sure to always search the chart carefully, because when you're looking at your chart, you might actually find out your signals may really be inverted, meaning it's actually causing things to buy backwards. And MACD does have a way of dealing with that. If you find your signals are buying backwards, you can change that. And that can happen when you're combining different types of signals. But remember, inverting a signal doesn't just flip the buys and the sells. It inverts the mathematics. So right here, the mathematics have found the high point. So let's see if we can find a buy marker. So no buy markers there. Let's go back. So always be sure to look at every single option and test them carefully. Okay, and so far no buy markers at all on a 5-minute. Let's move up to the 15-minute and see if it helps. No, it doesn't. So when you invert this for this particular coin, certain time frames do well, other time frames don't. So let's go back in. Let's uninvert it. And let's see if it finds anything. Again, you're not always going to know with confirmation bias what the best approach is until you actually try it. Now the 30-minute time frame, it has some pretty nice buy markers. If you couple this with the moving average and a momentum level, you're liable to get a couple of good spots to get you in and out with reasonable profit. So always look at a lot of different variables. MACD is the most complex of all of the upper level strategies that exist in the trading world. Confirmation bias just adds a layer of complexity on top of that or any other indicator. But it can produce some very good entry points. Even if you're not interested in the selling points, having these entry points with a surgical precision really can help you get a good profit basis. Until next time.